Such a beautiful day out there. I was wondering if folks would be out in the garden. So thank you for coming. Okay, well, we're going to get started. It's the hour, and I'll let people in as they come. Welcome, everybody, to the center. I'm Carolyn Merrick, the program coordinator. And today we have with us Jill Trischman-Marks, the executive director of the McIntire Botanical Gardens, who will share with us what has already been done to build this garden and to give insight into the road ahead. It's a lovely and inclusive mission and vision that the botanical gardens have to allow everyone to engage in nature. So I thank you, Jill, for offering to do this, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you all for coming probably inside today to hear about a garden. It's a beautiful day, so it's kind of a twist to be going inside on a beautiful day. So I appreciate your time and your interest in McIntire Botanical Garden. As you know, we're in the process of changing the name of the garden. So for today, I will refer to it simply as MBG. We received over 200 responses from the community for potential garden names and have taken the process of choosing the best name very seriously. We think we have landed on the right name for the garden, and we're currently in the process of checking its legal availability. So stay tuned. We should be announcing that new name very soon. So first, some housekeeping. I've built time into our presentation today to stop for questions, and I will address them at those stopping points. If you have questions, you can just put a question mark in the chat, and when I get to those stopping points, I can call on you. And before I turn to the slides, can everybody see and hear me? If you can just do a thumbs up, then I'll know we're good to go. Great. Right now, McIntire Botanical Gardens trails are open for walking, birding, and relaxation, but the full vision of MBG is yet to be realized. The first phase for the plan of the garden was designed with community feedback. The goal is that it will be a place to bring the community together so we can get to know one another and ultimately heal our community. For that to happen, we need as much input from folks as possible so we know what features and programs the garden needs to include to get people into the garden in the first place. So that's why I'm reaching out to organizations like yours today. Before I go on about MBG, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about botanical gardens. The cultivation of plants, or what we think of as gardens, has been going on for about 3,000 years, starting in ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. But the first true botanic gardens with a scientific mission were the physics gardens of Italy during the 16th and 17th century. These gardens were purely for the academic study of medicinal plants. And by the 16th century, these medicinal gardens had spread to universities and apothecaries throughout Central Europe. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself. Botanical gardens changed during the age of exploration and the start of international trade when gardens like the Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew were established to cultivate new species that were brought back from expeditions around the world. During the 19th and 20th century, municipal and civic gardens were created, and nearly all of these gardens were pleasure gardens, and very few of them had any scientific programming. This is the mission statement for MBG, adopted by the board of directors this year. As you can see, the modern botanical garden has evolved. Modern botanical gardens are actively embedding themselves in communities to deal with urban challenges. They are creating food forests to deal with conditions of food inequity. They create summer camps and other programs to help address childcare needs. They work with schools and other organizations to develop curricula that involve horticulture, conservation, environmental stewardship, sustainability, and climate change. They partner with senior centers and communities to develop programming, and some botanical gardens even provide green industry job training programs for at-risk and challenged adults. I know there were a few people that came in as I was starting, so are there any questions before I go on? Okay, I'm going to keep going then. MBG is a public-private partnership. The city has dedicated the land to the project, but that's where the taxpayer burden ends. The funds needed to design, construct, and maintain the garden will be raised privately. But once built, just like any other public park, MBG will be open and accessible to all. Our design team of McYoung Kim Design from Boston and Water Street Studios of Charlottesville recently completed the master plan for the garden. Our team is ideal for this project because McYoung Kim Design has the experience we needed in botanical garden design, and Water Street Studios knows our local geology, flora, and microclimates. In November of 2019, MBG received a national award for our master plan. That year, the American Society of Landscape Architects received 544 entries from around the world, of which 36 received awards. And to give you an idea of how big a deal this was, the other winner in our category was the renovation for the Great Wall of China. So the plan I'm going to show you today is that award-winning master plan and the process that went into developing it. The first task of any master plan project is the analysis of the site. Site analysis starts by looking at the big picture, such as the context of the site within the larger community. So you can see from this map that this dark black line right here is the outline of McIntire Park. It's divided in half by the railroad. And on the west side, we have the YMCA. And then in this area right here are the baseball diamonds. On the east side, we have the new skate park here and this Vietnam Memorial here. And this is the area of the old golf course. This red line indicates MBG's land in McIntire Park East. If you've been here long enough, you may remember the old leaf dump. That's the site that we are occupying right here. To get there, you take the bypass and get off. This is McIntire Road and John Warner Parkway. You take the parkway to Melbourne Road, take a left, and our entrance is right off of Melbourne Road. And you'll note that we're right next door to Charlottesville High School. The garden is also connected by the trails and bike paths that go along the John Warner Parkway here and all the way into the city. As part of the site analysis, we also did a public transportation site analysis, and we know that we'll need to get a bus stop to our garden in the very near future. The next step in the master plan process was getting community feedback. The same essential questions were asked in many different ways, so we fully understood the community response about what they envisioned for this site. We also asked the question in a variety of different venues and through a survey on our website. This is a word cloud which illustrates the community's input of the features they wanted in the garden. So the larger the word type, the more people use that word to describe what they wanted in the garden. For instance, more people said they wanted an amphitheater or a pinetum garden than they wanted spring bloom. And more people wanted spring bloom than they wanted corporate events. By gathering feedback from the community, the design team we're able to determine the types of feature the community wants in the garden and to generate guiding principles about what this garden should be. The guiding principles include an iconic design that draws people to the site, education that emphasizes indoor and outdoor learning about the environment, flexibility to accommodate different programming, and celebrating and highlighting the vibrant and diverse community and unique landscape history of Charlottesville. The design team was inspired to see the symbol for MBG as a nest, one that sits lightly on the land and is woven together of natural materials. We also like the image of the nest as a place of inclusion, nurturing, and for healing the community. This is the resulting master plan. The reason it is award-winning is twofold. The site is challenging. There's a 60-foot elevation change between Melbourne Road in here and the creek down here, resulting in some very steep slopes. We also have underground utilities. There's a gas line that goes through this area and this area, an underground sewer line that comes through here, and then we have overhead electrical utility lines over here. The other reason that this plan won an award is that the community identified this as a potential place to bring people of all ages and backgrounds together so they can get to know one another in a safe, neutral, and convenient place to help heal the community. So while this plan focuses on enhancing the existing ecosystems, it also redefines the idea that botanical gardens are just places to discover botany, and instead creates a place to pull a broad audience, which adds a distinct social overlay. It also provides gardens for interactive and immersive learning. So there are quieter, more contemplative spaces designed into the garden, like a flowering grove up here and woodland trails through here. There's meadows and mushroom and fern and moss gardens in here, and healing gardens right here. But there are also more active and communal garden areas like the aquatics garden, which is located here, our waterfall and stream feature here. This is the tree canopy walk, and it includes a bird blind and a sky viewing platform right here. And then this is the children's natural play garden right there. This is our visitor center. We plan for it to have facilities like toilets and a cafe. Our offices will be there. There will be meeting rooms and a library. There will also be catering facilities in this building, because adjacent to it are our two most populated spaces in the garden. They've been designed to facilitate social interaction that will support diverse programming, including weddings, seasonal celebrations, and performances. And they are our main event green right here, and our amphitheater right there. So I'm going to pause here to see if there are any questions.
And you all can just unmute yourselves if you have a question.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm wondering what the space is that's on the drawing below the amphitheater that's white. It's not labeled. It's next to the
right
children's.
Here?
Yeah, what's that space?
Okay, so the 8.5 acres that is designated for the garden is this area right here. Mm-hmm. And all of this is currently the city's responsibility. So I'll walk you through it. We have the parking lot and a drop-off area. And this white pad right here represents a bathroom facilities and a picnic pavilion, and also a splash pad for children. Oh. And then this bridge right here is an elevated, accessible walkway that would lead to, in this direction, we've got the skate park and the Vietnam Memorial right here. So this area is not the responsibility of the garden, but we are hoping they will actually extend. We included the children's natural play area as part of the garden in the hopes that the city will allocate the land to us and that we can incorporate it into what we're doing. So we'll have the same design feel, the same playful elements that we're designing into the garden, and it will feel unified.
Thank you.
Are there other questions before I go on about the plan? All right, I'll keep going then. As we work to raise the funds to build this future garden, there are lots of other things happening now too. With the help of community grants, business partners, and volunteers, we started stewarding the site a couple of years ago. The removal of invasive plants has helped open up the site, and we've been using chippings to create more trails, which allowed us until COVID-19 to offer bird, tree, and wildflower identification walks, as well as other educational opportunities. The scheduled educational walks had to end, but the use of the site has increased because the community is seeking solace and comfort in the outdoors these days more than ever. And to fill that need, we are meeting with our local community partners like Cultivate Charlottesville, the city schools, boys and girls clubs, and other organizations that offer mental health services to find out how to make the site more accessible and useful to them now, even before we raise the funds to build the garden as per the master plan. We've been getting great feedback and have started moving forward to respond to those needs. And one of the things that we're doing is creating gathering spaces on our site. These are temporary, they're built of natural materials. So we've got 3 glades in the woods that we are opening up, not by removing any trees, but removing the brush and stuff below them so that we can put down chippings. And then on top of that, we have 4-foot logs that Bartlett tree experts have been bringing to our site. They will be spaced on 6 feet apart from one another so that we can have gathering areas of 4 to 6 people for these organizations to meet with their clients. Also, people can use them for family picnics or birthday parties, that kind of thing. We also, with the help of J.W. Townsend, they've cleared a glade in a meadow area that's big enough to accommodate 12 of these 4-foot long benches. So we're really excited about the opportunity to bring more of the community to the site sooner rather than later. So that's who we are and what we aim to build for our community. We're a small local nonprofit organization actively looking to make friends. And there's lots to be done to achieve this dreams. And folks have asked how they can help. If you go to our website, you can sign up on our volunteer page and or to receive our newsletter. And that will keep you up to date on the happenings in and around the garden, like volunteer days or fundraising events. We just started yesterday with a Wednesday morning garden maintenance program. So on the 1st and 3rd Wednesdays of the month from 10 to 12, it's just a drop-in volunteer opportunity. Right now we're doing things like opening up areas along the trails for some of these 4-foot log benches to go in. We're edging the trails with other small branches or large branches and small logs to help define them better. And we're, pulling weeds in the path. So if you would be interested, you can sign up on our volunteer page and you'll get more information about these volunteer opportunities. Before I end the screen share, are there other questions that I can answer?
Yeah, actually, Tom put one that was the same question I had in the chat. What is your finish date goal?
So right now we have 2 design phases ahead of us before we even start construction. We're hoping that late spring, early summer, we start our first capital campaign so that we can finish the design phases and look towards our first phase of constructing the garden. And so we're hoping that the first phase will be completed in 3 to 5 years. But as I said, the garden is open now. There's, trails, and soon there will be some seating and opportunities for small gatherings.
Great. And as a corollary to that, what do you forecast to be the total cost for the project?
So as a part of the master plan for the garden, we had a cost estimate of the master plan that I just showed you. And that came in at $25 million. One of the reasons for the costs being as high as they are because of the challenges on the site, including the steep slopes and the fact that we need to make this site accessible. As a city park, it needs to be ADA compliant. And also because we have so many underground utilities and we can't change the surface of the land in the area of those utilities.
So there's a ways to go. In fact, the next question, where can one send donations and do you have membership options? That's from Shobha.
We're working on membership options. Yes, that's something that we hope to do in the very near future. Donations can be, you can go to our website, McIntireBotanicalGarden.org, and there's a donate button there. You can also send checks to the address on this that I gave earlier, 200 Garrett Street, Suite H, Charlottesville, 22902.
Nice. Again from Tom, and this is a great question too. Who was the originator / brainchild behind this project?
Helen Flamini, a county resident, was the brainchild and founder of McIntire Botanical Garden. And we're really grateful to her and all of her visionary friends who did the heavy lifting to get this project started. So I can give you a little bit of the background about it. The McIntire Park was going up for redesign. They were going to do a master plan of McIntire Park East. And so Helen and her friends started petitioning. They had already established McIntire Botanical Garden as a 501c3 in 2008. And the city started doing the redesign for the master plan of McIntire Park in around 2011. So once they started, they opened up for community input about what should be in the park. Helen and her friends started petitioning the city, doing different community input sessions and getting community feedback, and ultimately got the support to get McIntire Park Botanical Garden onto that master plan. And then in 2015, I believe, we became official partners of the city of Charlottesville on this venture.
Nice. So a lot of exciting milestones there.
Yeah.
Sharon asks, will there be naming opportunities in the park during the endowment campaign?
There will absolutely be naming opportunities, yes. So we haven't figured out yet the final cost of individual features, but there will also be naming. So one of the things we decided about renaming the garden was that we were not going to name it after a person or a corporation. It was going to be a name that was local or gave a sense of the locality of where the garden is. And so, but that rule of naming for people or corporations does not extend to features in the garden. And well, there will also be continuous feature opportunities such as benches, bricks, walks, trees, that kind of thing.
Nice. Shobha asked, and I think you addressed this, but probably everybody didn't hear it. Is it open to the public right now for walking, etc.? Is public parking available now?
So it is open. You access it through Melbourne Road. There is a gate with a sign with a gate, but even if the gate is closed, entrance is, the garden is open. And so you're welcome to walk the site whenever. I think like any city park, it's closed from sundown to sunrise, but otherwise it's available to you. And if the gate is closed, then there is parking along Melbourne Road. So you just park on Melbourne Road and just walk through the gate. You're fine. Nice.
And are there here a couple more questions? Are there major donors that are interested, like John Grisham, Sissy Spacek?
There are major donors that are interested, but I'm not at liberty to talk about who they are right now. We don't have any movie stars endorsing us yet, but I'm looking forward to the day when we do. So we are definitely actively looking to make friends. So if you are friends with Sissy Spacek and John Grisham and want to introduce me, I would be happy to meet them.
All right, take them for a walk in the garden. Will any annual property taxes be due to the city?
We're partners with the city, so I don't think we will be paying property tax. We have an MOA with the city about what our responsibility is for building, designing, building, and maintaining the garden. And then the city has its own level of responsibilities. So I think that our relationship will be a little different, and it depends on what the ultimate relationship is with the city. So I can't really answer that question, but the way that the agreement is written right now, we would be an entity within the city. We are partners with the city, so that the other parks are not paying taxes to the city.
Great. Can the benches be reserved for events?
Ultimately, that's a goal, that the gathering spaces will be available to reserve them, so that if you're having an event, a birthday party or whatever, we can put up a reserve sign and people won't assume that they can just sit down in the middle of your party.
A question I have is, that parking lot, like how big is that? I mean, what's the capacity of folks that once you're finished can hold comfortably?
Well, the
COVID
parking
notwithstanding.
Yeah, the parking lot as it's designed now is 100 people, but there's an area on the plan, and I can go back to that plan. So right now it's designed for about 100 cars, I think. This looks small, but that's what I remember being told. And then there's also parking. Well, actually, this is probably not 100 cars. This is probably more like 50. But there was also overflow parking that was in this area right here. And then there's parallel parking along Melbourne Road right now. We've had events in the garden to date where we actually had a van that we rented and then brought people parked over at the high school, and we vanned them to the site. So I think that possibility will exist in the future as well.
That's great, because CHS has a huge parking lot. So that's a nice option too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Someone asked prior to the beginning of this, which I thought was a great question, about what kind of plantings, indigenous, or I'm forgetting the word. What is the word? Native plants, right? Can you speak to that?
Yes, the goal of this garden is for it to be native and site adaptable plants. So that includes native cultivars and things that grow easily without having to be coddled in this community. But our goal ultimately is habitat restoration and sustainable habitats, something that's going to support local pollinators and birds and other fauna. So our tendency is towards native plants, but we also are aware that people have deer in their backyard. And so we want to open up the potential for the garden to include some things that the deer don't like. And I know that the deer tend to not like to not eat native plants, but that's not always the case. So we didn't want to be dogmatic about only native plants at this point.
That sounds very logical to me, especially with the deer eating things I never thought they would touch at my house.
Exactly. Their palate changes.
Yeah. Another question. Where are you in the process to get a bus stop?
So I have contacted the city transit and asked them what the process is. That was about a month ago. I need to knock on their door again because I never got a response, but we are actively trying to figure out what the process is so we can be pursuing that. If anybody has any inroads with the city transit, I would love to know how to contact them directly, because it's just a form on their website where you send your questions.
I can actually ask our director because we are also, looking for a bus stop. So this could be the I can't say it, the Botanical Garden Center bus. We could have a new bus line. Feel free to unmute yourself if you have any other questions or comments for Jill. Otherwise, you can write them in the chat and I'll be happy to answer those. So is the golf course going away totally, or?
Golf course was not in the area of the Botanical Garden, and it did actually end when they built the bypass or the John Warner Parkway, because they lost 3 of their greens at that point. So yes, the golf course is kind of Penn Park now serves both the city and the county.
Gotcha.
So
go ahead.
I see that there's a question about the aquatics features. And right now, in the area of the creek, it's a perennial creek. It needs to be restored. It starts on the Charlottesville High School side of the railroad tracks, and then goes under the railroad into our park, into the garden site. The stream is very eroded. It's due for a restoration, and we're actually going to start testing the waters and documenting the quality of the water now. So we have a baseline, and we can, and then we can study any changes to the water through the stream restoration process. We do know that there are critters in the water right now, but until we start doing the actual studies, we don't know exactly what they are. I'm going to share my screen again just so that you can see what I'm talking about. So right now the stream comes right through under the railroad track all the way down through here. And what we're planning on doing is piping the water from the railroad tracks all the way through to here and creating a land bridge through here so that we can connect the 2 sides of the garden. The water from the pipe will be empty into an underground reservoir, and this will give the water a chance to stop moving and for the silt and stuff to drop to the bottom of the reservoir. So cleaner water will come up, rise up to the top, and then cascade over this waterfall feature, which will also add oxygen to the water. So this feature will not, there's stepped rocks in this area so that there will be a place to sit, kind of like an amphitheater-like seating next to the water. So you'll have the sound of the water and the coolness of the water in the summer. And we'll be able to regulate the flow of water when we have rain events so that we can prevent scouring route downstream from this feature. But this area of the stream will be a natural creek line once the restoration is complete and we've shored up all the erosion and obviously reduced a lot of the silt that we have now. So the area of the aquatics garden is right here. And if you come to the site, one of the things you'll notice is that you've got this steep downhill slope and then a bit of a bowl, and the land goes up again before it goes downhill into this creek. Well, this bowl area, because there's so much water that settles here from this slope up here, now has all hydric soils and wetland plants growing in it. So we don't need to introduce those wetland species. They're already living in this area. We're just opening it up. This right here represents a raised walkway that's an ADA walkway, so that you can actually walk or pass through that wetland habitat and be able to look down and see what's living in that area.
Wow, that's exciting. It's amazing how many microclimates are in just one geographic region here in Charlottesville.
It's true. And even today, it's pretty interesting when you're walking in this area to see that juxtaposition of the creek habitat and the wetland habitat side by side.
Anybody else?
Well, I thank you for your interest and your support of McIntire Botanical Garden. I truly appreciate your coming in on a beautiful day to hear about a garden. And I hope that you can come out sometime and get a tour of the site. I think that you'll be inspired by the imagination of our designers. And right now it's, although we've been stewarding it and opening it up, and it looks so much better than it did 2 years ago when we started doing this work. You still need a certain amount of imagination to envision what we're planning for this site. But we're looking forward to be able to provide this opportunity to the community. So thank you.
Thank you. I just noticed, Clay, you did, of someone said, I can't wait to visit the finished gardens, walkways, and canopy. Thank you. Clay, I noticed you unmuted yourself. Did anybody want to share or have a question in the room?
What's the design plan on their website? What's the question again? Is there a design plan on the website? Is this plan on your website?
Yes, it is. So if you go to www.mcintirebotanicalgardens.org, the tabs on the top, on the far left, is the plan and map of the garden. So you can go in further detail to the different garden areas, and there's text that tells you about it as well as more images.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming and participating, and thank you, Jill, for what an extraordinary vision.
I really enjoyed this opportunity, and I thank you for all your questions. And I just want to remind you all that, as at the beginning of this, I said that this is the beginning of what I hope will be a conversation. We want as much community input as possible to make this garden as relevant as it possibly can be for our community. And for that to happen, we need your input into what you think, what programs and features you think this garden should have. So please reach out and don't hesitate to contact me with your ideas.
Thank you again. Thank you all for coming.